Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast.
Weedly beep 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 beedly beep 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 beedly dee 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 dee.
Oh, there was a drop. I didn't even know I was waiting for the drop, and then I was glad I did.
That's because I'm so good at electronic music. I've been listening to it for so long. I'd be good at it now.
Really?
Just
No,
absorbing it by osmosis.
That is not how. What it has made me is incredibly intolerant of bad, predictable electronic music.
Get that 4/4 drum loop.
Oh yeah.
Boom 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 boom.
I remember I went with my friend who there was like a open air like DJing sort of big like concert competition thing downtown, and it's great because a lot of the techno loops that they use in the like different DJ stuff that they use are, you know, they design them on the same beat, right, so that they can transition well.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's fun. You listen to it and you're like 1 2 3 2 2 3 3. You know, like you can do it.
You can very easily predict when the DJ's gonna. There it goes. Yeah.
There it goes. Yeah, because they have to match them up, or it sounds better if they transition at the same time. So anyway,
That's why we were talking in the Best of 2014 cast about you prefer like intricate, constructed, like just deviously involved electronic, even if I don't think it sounds very good.
Yeah. What was that thing that I made you listen to? And I'm like, oh my God, this song's amazing. And you're like, this song's kind of a mess. And I'm like, listen to all the different parts.
I can't remember. It was supposedly someone's Christmas song.
just having
It was One O Tricks Point Never and well, no, it was One O Tricks Point Never and some other DJ, and I can't remember. And it was like it sampled like some stupid Christmas bells. But I thought that song was beautiful. I thought it came together really well. I thought like it had some distinct movements, and then it came together into one glorious whole.
I'm sure it did. I didn't like how it sounded.
one glorious HOLE.
Wait, like, is it just the tone that put you off? Like, is it the actual sounds they used?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
To be fair, the sounds they use is a large portion of what a song is.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend it. I just didn't like it.
I feel like my taste in music is getting progressively like more unpalatable to other people, because like what I'm really into right now is any electronic music that uses kind of like a flat or a broken or a detuned sound, like track 4 off the latest Aphex Twin.
I really like
is a good
that
example.
track, though.
But I want more of that. I want all the songs, all the sounds to sound not good. I want them all to be not traditional notes. And then also just like jammy dad rock. Although I feel like I haven't gone as far as Adam, my best friend, who said, "Hey Kathleen, how much Steely Dan have you listened to in earnest over the weekend?"
So,
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
So there you go.
Anyway,
Steely Dan.
we're not actually here talking about Steely Dan this week. Welcome to the
Best Steely Dan stories.
Welcome to the LRRcast. I'm Graham.
That one time I listened to Steely Dan.
Kathleen and Paul are here, of course.
Yay.
And based on a suggestion, actually from Kathleen, I was going to say from Twitter, but based on a suggestion from Kathleen, this is it's the Hold My Beer episode. Except that I don't think beer was involved in any of these stories. It's it's personal injury stories.
Mm-hmm. Inspired by the fact that I have somehow managed to sprain my toe, which I'm not going to tell the story of because it's not very exciting.
Yeah, you walked around.
I walked around,
Yeah.
I think, or I cracked my toe.
You got to be careful when you're walking around.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did,
No.
but my foot's all swolled.
Yeah. Swole.
Super swollen.
Finally, I've gotten swole.
You've been working out.
In one location only.
Yeah.
That's why it
right
hurts.
side. My left foot.
You got to balance your workout a little more.
Yeah, that's why it hurts, because you did targeted workout on that one toe so much. You can't do that many reps on the one toe.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
Those toe raises just.
You went too high of a weight class too quickly.
I flew too close to the sun.
So yeah, we were talking about this. I predict, at least if not part 2 of this podcast, but at least James will have some interesting personal injury stories. I have, knock on wood or whatever this laminate is.
There's wood in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's there. The center
chipboard.
is cardboard, actually.
Oh,
Thanks,
well.
But
IKEA.
there's wood on the outside.
Yeah,
Sort of.
kind of
Woodish.
a veneer. Anyway, I've never broken a bone,
Yay.
which I'm pretty happy about. It
Except your funny bone, maybe.
wah, 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 wah.
Womp.
It felt really weird when I was younger because basically everybody I knew and hung out with at one time or another showed up to school in a cast, and it's like, what happened? Like, oh, I broke my arm. How'd you break it? Jumping off a thing, right? Like.
I've never broken a
just
bone
seemed,
either.
It just seemed routine that
Wait.
like every other guy in my elementary school classes broke a bone at one time or another, and I'm
Not
like,
their bone.
no, but I felt weird. I was like, I've never broken a bone.
Paul, have you ever broken a bone?
No.
See, I think it may be the kind of people that we were, the kind of kids who would be staying inside playing video games or reading comics and not going around jumping off things.
I mean, I jumped on trampolines a couple times.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely, like, I feel like perhaps we are the sector of the population that was the nerdier, more indoors, and maybe that directly led the
that's fair.
I mean,
the intact bones.
yeah, but kids just do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an element of luck in there too. I
That's
mean,
true.
I have been in many situations where broken bones, could definitely have occurred. Some would argue should have occurred,
Yep.
but kids are fairly resilient in that way.
Yeah. So like, okay, here's one for me. In the auditorium, the theater at my high school, with like the raked floor and the seats because we did like musical theater and stuff. It was right near the gymnasium in that building, and someone had brought one of the high jump crash mats into the gym beside the stage.
Oh, this will only end poorly.
Right, like these are like the really, really thick ones. They're like 2.5 foot tall.
And they got like the red plastic on the outside, but they're all foam on the inside.
Yeah, this had like a mesh thing. They were like plastic on the bottom 2/3, and then like a mesh on the foam over top. Like I'm not talking like the little like 4 or 5 inches like. I don't know, like the floor of a dojo crash mat. I'm talking about like the big, thick ones you use for high jump.
Yeah, for high jump. Yeah.
And so they brought one of those in, and this guy who obviously understood the physics of life and his own body better than I was doing like forward flips.
Yeah.
Right, and he made it look very easy. Right, like he would just like sort of stand at the edge of the stage, and then like. Just sort of fall forward and then land on his back on the crash mat, right? Just like thump, like very, very simple. And I was like, oh, well, I could do that, right? Not sort of understanding that
Gotta like really.
you can't just tip, right? You can't you can't just tip over and sort of tuck and
Not enough rotation.
You know what?
you have to
is
do
just as bad, if not worse, than too much rotation.
yeah, like your body. You have to make your body move
Yeah.
to do that.
I feel like I discovered this on a diving board.
Oh yeah,
That is really hard to do this, and you usually just end up belly flopping or like back flopping. I feel like in an alternate universe, there's a Graham who's paralyzed from the neck down due to this
I
stunt.
hope probably.
This is why you do it onto the crash mat.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to try and do a full-on front flip my first try. So, but I was like, yeah, I could just like, because I could somersault, right? I know that. So I know, and like the somersault, you end up back on your feet. So this is like, okay, so you go forward and then you just land on your back on this big soft thing. What could go wrong?
Well, what happened?
Well, I went over forwards, but I didn't, and I went over and I tucked, but I didn't, of course, do the bit where you then extend again. And so I just sort of landed on like my upper back on the crash mat in kind of like a pile, which was fine because it's the crash mat, so I didn't hurt my back or anything.
Oh,
but
no.
different parts of your body have momentum, and my knee.
Oh no!
My knee just slammed into my nose.
Ouch.
Just whomp, and just blood. I didn't break my nose, but you had that thing where you smell pennies.
And you're like,
Just like you just you're dazed because you've just been punched in the face by your own knee, and then you're like, and everything's weird and awful, and then you're bleeding from the nose, and everyone's like, holy shit, Graham broke his nose. And of course I did not actually break my nose, but
Your nose is lovely. I'm glad you didn't break it.
Thank you. But woof, that really hurt.
There's always that added level of insult when it's your own body that punched you.
Yeah. I was like, what? I thought we were on the same team.
Yeah. It's like, knee, you had one job, and that was to stay out of my face.
So yeah, that's a pretty good intro for self-inflicted injury.
That's when you see divers a lot of the time when they're doing those really tight tucks, their knees are on the other sides of their heads.
Yeah, but I didn't know that.
Well, also that's impossible to do unless you're super flexible. So.
Yeah, I was flexible enough that I could knee myself in the nose. I don't think I can do that now.
Oh, I'm sure I could do that. I don't think that's much of an accomplishment. If I put my mind to it, I'm sure I could hit myself in the face with another part of my body.
Oh yeah, no, you definitely could. I don't know. What have you done to yourselves?
So, I was trying to. So, one, I guess there's a big one, but something that did. It wasn't actually something that did to myself, but it was I had a great injury when I was in sort of elementary school.
With GRATE or
GREAT.
Okay, a great injury.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very cool.
Okay. I'm listening.
So all it was real simple, is I was just in my parents, like the house where I grew up, my parents had a very, very small kitchen. And my mom was cooking something on the stove, and I was like chopping something on the chopping board, which is basically like back to back.
Right.
And she turns around holding this thing in the frying pan at the same time as I turn around, right? And she hits me hits me across the face with the edge of this frying pan.
Oh no!
It's like really hot.
Oh wow!
And so I was like, and she's like, oh no, obviously she feels really bad about it. So it's probably really stoked about me bringing it up right now. But it was great though, because for a while it looked like this sweet like saber scar. I had this like thing like right down my face.
Oh man!
And it was like, I that was from the sword fight I was in earlier. Yeah. It was and it was kind of raised too, like because it was a burn, not actually like a cut. Anyway, that was cool. Also, you can actually see a little bit still in terms of kitchen stuff. I have a scar, sort of crescent-shaped scar on my thumb.
That is a hell of a scar.
Which is on the opposite end of the spectrum in that it's was very painful and unpleasant and not cool at all. Because it was literally me doing the dishes.
Oh no.
And a glass broke.
Oh wow.
In the this is doing by hand.
Right.
And so under the hot water.
Under the suds or whatever?
Yeah, under the suds where I couldn't see it. A glass had broke, and so I picked it up.
Oh.
And I didn't realize that it had that it was super sharp, and so hurt my thumb with that. So yeah, that's sort of the two extremes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I guess they're like super awesome, but not that bad, and not cool. But very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh right, I was gonna say I totally have used like a ridiculous excuse to cover a stupid injury, and I couldn't remember what it was, but I just remembered, and it was an injury. When I lived up in northern BC for a while, I had the air is really, really dry there, and I have very, very sensitive, very dry skin, and the air was so dry it gave me a weird form of eczema. And since I've moved away from there, and I think some of it was stress related too, because I didn't really like living there, I've never had it come back again, thank God. But it's this weird kind of eczema called Pomophelix, and you can look it up, and it's gross. And you get hundreds of little blisters all over your hands, sometimes your feet.
Yeah, it's nasty.
And then sometimes they form together into like big blisters, and then they pop, and then your skin peels off. And a weird side effect of this, and this is everybody who has it says the only thing that takes away the itching. And Graham saw me when I had this, that I would scratch my hands in my sleep because they were so itchy. I would rub my fingers together to try and get in between them. And I was sleeping when I was doing this. It's extremely hot water, so people who have this often scald themselves. And the hot water is bad because it dries out your skin further, but it's the only thing that dulls the itching for a while. Yeah. But anyhow, because of this, and it was horrible, my skin was peeling up, my hands were cracked and bleeding and oozing. I wore like those white cleaning gloves everywhere because my doctor was like, you can't let your hands like you could get an infection, and you can't wash your hands that much using soap and water because it will dry them out further. So just try to protect them. And so I wore these white gloves, and everybody like, what is wrong with you? I was like, oh, well, I was rescuing some orphans from a burning building, and I had to like jump out through the plate glass window, and my hands got all cut up.
Obviously, orphan rescue.
I feel that was the best one. I think
Did they believe you?
In my no, in my head it was like the scene in Cowboy Bebop where Spike is jumping out of the church on Mars. I think like when he's rescuing Faye.
It's probably been like 6 or 7 years since you had any of that, though.
Yeah, it's great. It's never come back after I left Chetwood. Luckily, I had a good doctor who had never seen it before, and he was very.
He was like, I'm going to solve this.
Yeah, he was basically like, I'm going to figure out what you have and why it won't go away. Because like it started out with like, all right, you have some sort of, I guess, a rash. Have some like hydrocortisone cream, and the only thing that touched this for me is like one of the strongest over-the-counter like skin medications you can get. And apparently, if you use it too much, it will thin your skin. But if you have any other kind of rash, like I still have a tube of it. It's probably expired, but whatever. It goes away instantly. And like,
because it's just taking off like the top few layers of your skin.
No, I don't know what it is. It's just super medicated. It's like the strongest cream you can get. And so like, if you have any kind of other skin irritation, done. One application of like half a pea-sized amount. It's so strong.
Wow.
And I would just slather this shit on because it was the only thing that would help.
Crazy.
What you should have done, you could have done the like the Star Wars thing and get like the black gloves and pretend that like your hands are actually robotic now.
Yeah.
Maybe get a little tape recorder to play like servo noises.
Oh
when
yeah,
move
there
your
you
hand.
go.
If I had been able to find black gloves, I probably would have. But the white gloves were the thinnest things that I could still sort of wear inside. That's if you look at my hands. If you look at my hands compared to Graham's hands, my hands are way wrinklier, which is this weird long-term side effect.
Huh.
Is just that it like actually like aged the skin on my hands having to
Also,
deal
I
with
bathe
this.
my hands in milk every morning.
Yeah, so I have old-looking hands because of this. Anyhow, that is not an injury story, but a cool excuse story. But
Sheep's milk
sheep's milk.
every day. Just the hands, not the rest of me.
No.
But I want to make sure I have supple hands
I haven't injured
so I
myself.
can type. I don't know. Actually, Paul's frying pan story reminded me of a time I injured myself while shooting a Loading Ready Run video.
Oh, what did you do?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Remember that?
We were shooting in my parents' old library at their old house, which was and you'll see it in earlier Loading Ready Run videos, probably up to like season 6-ish. It's the big sort of black library with like the big tall shelves and books everywhere, and there's a desk there. We shot Deeply Religious in there.
The Harry Potter one.
The Harry Potter sketch we shot in there because it looked like the common room at Hogwarts because my parents' house was crazy.
Basically, anytime we needed like fancy place.
Yeah.
We still go to your parents if we need fancy place.
Yeah, but they're in a
actually.
different house
It's
now.
a different
Yeah.
type of fancy place now.
So we were shooting there and we were filming. I'm trying to remember. This was like season 1 or season 2, and it was some sort of like retrospective
Was this
video.
Was this the one that was like? It was supposed. The premise was that like you were like cutting me out of all the videos or something.
Yeah. Right. I think this was written by Johnny Lunchbox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a long time.
Yeah. And who was a friend of Kathleen's.
Yeah, I went to
who
university with him.
Wrote a couple sketches in like the first season because he watched our stuff and totally had the same kind of sense of humor.
I feel like if he'd moved to Vancouver or Victoria, we'd still be friends, but he moved out east.
Fool.
Can't be friends with anybody out there.
Well,
Out
it's just
east.
so far.
Madness. So yeah, the sketch was like me in like in a robe, which was clearly a bathrobe and not like a dinner jacket kind of robe, in the library, being like, "Yes, well, you see here at Loading Ready Run," and I'm talking about how I've kicked Paul out of videos, and then at the end, Paul like comes into that scene,
Right.
except of course this was just us, right? So there's a bit where like you have to come in and be in the shot, and it was just the camera on a tripod, and you're like, okay, good, and then run around the other side, and yeah,
I remember the
times.
story now.
old school. Anyway, so we had the fire going, which was great because there's a fireplace in the thing, and the shot like sitting beside the fire, that whole sort of thing.
It looks even fancier.
Yeah. And so we'd set the fire, but we'd forgotten to open, it was my house. I'd forgotten to open the flue.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So what happened was the fire went really high, and smoke and fire started licking around the top of the fireplace and coming into the room.
Bad.
Very, very bad. And because smoke damage on that ceiling, that would have been
Your dad would have been
really bad.
You would have been telling a much more interesting injury story about your dad murdering you.
Yeah. So when my dad killed me,
Yeah.
so I had to grab the screen off the front of the fire because there was like the way these fireplaces work. I know not a lot of people have experience with fireplaces these days, as it turns out. My friends at the time thought it was super weird that I grew up in a house with 6 fireplaces because
I'd never had any fireplaces.
This weird house built in 1892.
6 fireplaces, like
That's excessive.
my house always had a fireplace,
Yeah.
but only one.
I grant you 6 is excessive, but it was how it was.
I just like to shout out to all the poor kids who had no fireplaces.
We were not rich. That was a common misconception that people gave us all. I got crap for that at school all the time. They were like, "Well, you live in that giant house, you're rich." I'm like, "Well, the house isn't necessarily. The house is big. It's not as giant as it looks. It's on a rock on the top of a hill." Secondly, we saved it from demolition.
Yeah.
The house had a demolition permit on it. It was going to be torn down, and my parents were like, "We'll take it for like whatever."
6 fireplaces because it's old, and that's how they.
That's how they heated
that
the
was
house.
the heat.
Yeah. Anyway, so you've got the opening to the firebox, and then in front of it there would be like a screen, like a separate thing that you could take away and move to the side to let more heat out. But then when you were leaving the room, you'd put the screen on the fire in case there were sparks, and it surrounded the front and the top. And so I'm like, oh crap, I have to open the flue, but to pull the lever for the flue is inside where the screen is.
Ow.
That's not a smart move.
No, so
You're supposed to
Usually it's
open it
like-
before you start the fire,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Usually it's like up on the stack.
well, all of these fireplaces, they had 2 levers beside the. Well, it's when I say the flue, I mean the flap at the top of the firebox.
Oh, okay.
Right, it's just to stop the cold air from the the thing falling into the room when you're not actually having a fire going. And this particular screen, I don't think had a handle or something, or maybe I was just being like, "Oh crap, I got to not have the smoke in the room." So I grab the top of the screen and pull it aside and grab the flue, and then realize that I am in incredible pain because the
fire had been actually licking that part.
The fire being so hot, all the heat had been pouring out of the thing and making the screen really, really hot. And so I think it was my left hand. I'm not entirely sure.
It was your left hand, yeah.
The fingertips across like all 3, like the index, middle, and ring fingers had like the grill marks basically of the screen burned in because I'd grabbed it and pulled it aside and just been like, and then pulled the flue open and I've been like, oh, and there's an outtake of it where I'm just like screaming, just like, oh fuck, I'm just really, really angry.
Do you go run your hand under cold water?
Oh, I sure did, but then we weren't done filming.
Yeah.
So
this is the commitment to comedy.
So you'll see if you ever watch this video. I don't know. I don't think it's online anymore. But if you have the DVDs or if we ever show it at some point, you'll be able to see for the first part of the video. I'm sitting there with my hands sort of like politely crossed in my lap, and then later in the video, my left arm is just down the side of the chair because it's facing away from camera, sitting in a bucket of ice water.
Yeah,
which was also the only way I could fall asleep for the next like day or two because it hurt so bad.
Wow.
And so I slept on my stomach with my hand over the edge of the bed in like a juice jug full of full of ice water.
You poor thing.
That sucked.
Bad burn.
Yeah, I probably should have put like aloe or something on it, but I didn't really know.
Maybe you should have seen a doctor.
It would have been awesome if you had ended up with
Or told
like,
my parents. They might have been out of town. I don't know.
Did it be sweet if you ended up with like permanent cross hatching on over your fingers?
That would have been interesting. I'm glad it didn't happen
Be great.
though.
You'd have really good grip.
Yeah, and really weird fingerprints.
Yeah,
That'd be a good episode of CSI. What's up with these fingerprints? I don't understand.
It's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of personal injury stories.
Your idea.
I know, because my foot is currently injured. I figured you guys would have better ones than me. But I can talk about why I hate bicycles so much.
They hurt you?
Is it related to an injury?
Several.
Okay. Kathleen DeVere, bicycle discriminator.
Well, if you gave me two options to get around, and you're like, you can, or if you gave me a multitude of options, you're like, you could take the bus and it will cost $2.50, and you'll have to wait for the bus. You can ride a bike and it will be free, but you'll have to ride the bike and it'll take you 10 minutes. Or you can walk and that will also be free, but it will take you half an hour. I will choose walking every single time. I hate riding bikes.
Really?
Because I learned to ride a bike late because my mom, when I was a kid, I really wanted a bike because I didn't realize that they were my two-wheeled nemesis yet. Nemesises.
For those who are wondering, why doesn't Graham know that Kathleen hates riding bikes?
Because he's never seen me do
It
it.
doesn't come up. We walk everywhere. So.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I had a bike for a while because my dad gave me a bike, but then he realized he didn't actually want to give me a bike and he wanted to take it back.
Thanks, Dad.
He meant well, sort of. So I wanted a bike, and then, for years, my mom, when she was still around, would do things like give me a toy bike and then laugh at me when I opened it disappointedly. But eventually I got a bike and learned to ride it when I was like 12, which is late to ride a bike. So I've never been particularly good at it. And I think if I had practiced more, but what I did end up was constantly injuring myself. The last straw for a long time until my dad gave me that bike and I used it to get around to work for a while because it was like a 3-kilometer walk, and so it would take a while, but it was like a 10-minute bike ride. Was my dad? I was a teenager in Prince George. My dad was like, let's go for a bike ride, and so he was in the lead. And my dad's always been sort of a reckless, fast rider, and I've always been a more slow, cautious rider. And I was trying to follow him, and he took a really sharp turn, and I didn't realize he'd be taking that sharp turn, and I wiped out and hit. This being Prince George is actually relevant to the story because they put gravel and sand down on the roads in the wintertime, and this was spring, but they hadn't swept up all the gravel and sand, and I was taking a really sharp turn, and ended up the gravel and sand ended up just causing my wheel to completely lose traction, and I kind of just very, 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 very fast, kind of skidded to the side and around the corner and stuff like that, and started to go forward. Luckily, I put my hand out to stop myself from flipping over the bike. Unfortunately, I ended up badly spraining my right wrist and elbow. So that took 3 weeks to heal. And I couldn't write or draw or anything like that.
Jeez.
There was another time that I don't remember what happened, but I ended up falling just off and bruising my tailbone and stuff like that. And so shortly after that, my bike was stolen, and I was like, oh, what a shame.
And then you see in the newspaper that's man dies in terrible bike accident.
And it's your bike.
No, I don't think my bike was particularly cursed. I just don't think I'm a particularly skilled rider because I started late. I'm afraid of going fast. I don't even like downhill skiing because it's too scary. And my dad, wonderful, loving father that he was so unsympathetic. He's like, what'd you do that for? And I'm like, you didn't tell me you were turning. And then I got caught up in the gravel. He's like, well, you shouldn't have tried to turn so sharply. I'm like, well, you should have been going a million. I'm supposed to be following you. You didn't signal or anything to let me know you're supposed to be turning. So I was going at we are going for blocks downhill kind of speed. I was not prepared to make that turn.
I think it tells you everything you need to know that if you are in a car and you are following the car driven by Kathleen's dad because he is helping you find the place, he will blow through the yellow lights.
Yeah.
That's everything you need to know about
bike equivalent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just meow. We're trying to. All right, I guess we'll wait here at the red light. See you in 8 years.
Yeah.
I like it when
I'll just look it up on my phone.
when you are riding your bike and hit something, or a curb or a parked car or something, right?
Yeah.
But you hit it hard enough that you get thrown forward off the front of your seat and into your handlebars, such that now your handlebars are all cocked sideways.
Oh yeah, and you
That's
have to
happened
like
to be a few times.
you have to go around front and like wedge the wheel between your
Yeah,
legs
yeah.
and then pull the handlebars straight.
Yeah, that always sucks.
Yeah, I did that a couple times.
Because the part that was used to do it the other way was basically your crotch.
Yeah.
Which is not so fun.
I can't remember any bicycle injuries, and I don't know if that means I had any or not. But I can't remember any.
I've never worn a helmet, and I don't remember getting into any injuries or any
must be
accidents at
fine.
all, so it must be fine.
Yeah. I can't remember any specific instances, but I know that there's been like times where I've been. Ever been so winded you turn into an airlock? Where
No.
you just like you make the noise of like a science fiction airlock, or like you fall off like a trampoline or out of a tree, and then you make no sound, and then the next sound you make is just this.
No, because
I've done that a couple times.
I was a cautious child who did not get out much
So
and
was I.
avoided trees
I still occasionally fell out of things.
avoided height and fast moving objects. So any injuries,
It's really-
my injuries were few and far between.
It's really the combination that's the problem. You know, height isn't an issue and fast moving isn't an issue. But if you're high and then start moving really fast, that probably means something bad's going to happen.
Yep. I actually okay, this isn't necessarily self-inflicted, but I was at least partially responsible, and it's really funny. In high school, a friend of ours was the guy with the car. And so there was 4 of us, Duncan, Chris, Tim, and myself, and we would ride around in his car, like if we had like a spare block, because the way that our school worked, the scheduling wise, because everyone's was different, you could often be in a situation where you had like 2 classes and then nothing and then lunch and then another 2 classes.
Right.
If the nothing was like if you had a spare block or something, so it's like, well, we got 2 hours in the middle of the day, so why would we hang around school? That's lame. So we go driving. And one of the things that we would do, because we were totally bored, is like at nights. This sounds so lame. This is not like a regular thing we would do, but when we were driving around at night, if we found ourselves in the part of town where there was basically Victoria's equivalent of Makeout Point, which we've actually filmed at a couple times. It's near where the car goes into the water in Junk in the Trunk.
Cattle Point.
Yeah. There's
Why have you never taken me to Cattle Point?
because it's for high school students. Also, I don't have a car.
You don't have a car, but
What
you do
good
have
are
a
you?
house.
Yeah, we don't need to.
The make-up point is for when you have a car, but you don't have a house.
You can't get away from your parents.
Oh, right.
So there's a slight decline down to where cars would usually park for this. And so what we would do is we would go into stealth mode, which is we would turn off the lights and engine and just glide down this road until we got close to the cars.
Was your friend driving a standard?
Yeah. And
Just
then
jam the clutch in.
And then it might have been automatic and just put it in neutral. Anyway, glide down, and then when we get close to any cars that we can see, then slam the engine back on, flash on the high beams, and tear away.
Why not just honk the horn?
Well, also that. But part of stealth mode was that everyone had to crouch down. Right, and so the driver was down behind the wheel, and the guy in the passenger seat was down behind the dash, and the 2 people in the back would like grab the headrests in front and like hide because it's stealth mode. Right, and so we're driving around totally separately from this because that then became like a thing. Just stealth mode became a thing, and we were making fun of one another as you were wont to do. And I said something to Duncan, who was the driver. I can't remember exactly what I said, and he was just like, "Hey, gee, stealth mode," and I'm like, "Oh!" And I grab the headrest of because I'm behind the passenger seat, so I grab the headrest, and then he just taps the brake, so I go boom into the into the back of the headrest.
Nice.
It was really good. It's like, "Hey, gee, stealth mode, bump!" I can't believe he fell for it.
Yeah, it's the combination of 2. I like that. Yeah.
That's funny. Wow, this must have been back in the day if you were not in the front seat.
Yeah, it was fine. There was enough legroom that it worked fine.
All of our friends drive small cars, and Graham almost always gets the front seat now because he is very tall and does not easily fit in the back of most cars.
Grim has always been relatively tall,
Yeah.
but he was also very sort of lanky before,
very.
so he was more kind of bendable into different.
Yeah, that was more compact.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess here's my big story.
Which we talked about before, but it's a good one to have
on Desert Bus and stuff. But
it's a good one to have laid out in a matter of record. We've probably talked about it on a podcast before, but
maybe I don't know. Okay, so basically, it's this.
Paul is flipping you off if you're not watching the video.
And the reason for that is I have the middle knuckle on my right hand. I have a big scar on it, and that's because I partially severed the tendon to my middle finger, and you can see actually the only lasting damage is basically giving people the finger.
Yeah,
is that if I give you the finger with this hand, it looks like that. And if I give you the finger with this hand, it looks like that.
Your range of motion.
Yeah,
you can't pull it away from the other fingers as much.
Yeah, you can see I can't lift this finger as high.
Yeah.
So
a permanently debilitating injury.
Yeah. So that's the only long-term side effect, which is not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is this was quite a few years ago on the launch day for the Nintendo Wii.
Yep.
And we were over at James's old place, and we were playing all the only game that we had at that point, which was Wii Sports.
Wii Sports, the one that came with the system.
It came with the system, and playing all the different things. And I was playing Wii Tennis, and going back and forth, and got pretty heated. And I was going to do an overhead smash. Which, by the way, doesn't even work in Wii Tennis.
We didn't know that at the time, though.
Yeah, that's not a move in Wii Tennis.
Like everything, like the front hands and the back hands, everything felt really natural. So we were like, maybe it can do overhand. And
so I
did the manual.
I did an overhead smash, and overhead smashed my hand into the light fixture in James's living room.
This is one of those light fixtures that it's just like.
It's like a glass plate, basically.
Yeah, it's basically just like
a square of glass,
like a square glass plate, and down from the ceiling comes like just a stick, basically that the plate is on, and then there's light bulbs that come out from the stick as well between the plate and the ceiling.
And then there's a little screw that holds it onto the thing, so it's sort of
you can like unscrew it, take the plate down, put the things in, or you could just reach around the plate to change the bulbs if you wanted. These are in 1980s basements around the world.
This is not a basement. This is
I know,
but yeah,
like these are the kind of light fixtures. Like they were very popular in the 60s and the 70s, I think. Yeah.
Anyway,
so I smashed my hand into this fixture. The glass part comes off,
shears off, and
like shatters on the ground.
Yeah.
But that leaves around this
like around the stalk.
Around this middle piece that was holding the glass part, it leaves it covered in jagged glass.
Like a razor thin.
And so when I go up with my hand, I smash into this and the glass cuts into my knuckle.
Because you hit the plate with like the broad side of like the side of your palm.
Yeah.
Right. With just like I'm trying to describe it for the benefit of the video, but like the side of your palm hit the edge of the glass and knocked it off, and that was like whatever. And we all were like, "Oh my god, you broke the light! That's hilarious!" But then on the follow through, the knuckle went. On the
but we didn't. Yeah, we didn't initially notice because there was a lot of like people.
Paul didn't initially notice.
Yeah, and then like I sort of pulled my hand down. And I was like, ow, that hurt. Except it didn't really hurt that much. And then I looked at my hand, and there was like a lot of blood there. And I was like, ooh. And I was sort of looking, and I see like, it's bad when you see like a lot of blood, and then you're sort of like trying to wipe it away, and then you see like white.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa. I see a white thing inside my hand. That thing is not one of the things I'm supposed to see.
So the game was very, very quickly ceased.
And so I'm like, I think I need to go to the hospital.
Yep.
So how many stitches did you end up getting?
It was 14 stitches, I think.
And some of those were on the tendon.
Yeah, most of those were actually inside. So they had to basically go in, they had to freeze the whole thing.
And when we got to the ER, right? It was like, hey, I hurt, like, because you weren't in pain.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't actually.
It was a very clean cut.
We thought it was shock, but it turns out that like really, really deep cuts.
Well, because you don't have any nerve, like the nerves are on the surface.
Yeah.
So once you cut through the nerves, there's no actual like nerves on your bone.
Yeah.
It's just.
And so you went up to the ER and you're like, I have this problem, and they were like, oh,
And
come on in.
and she was like, what happened? And like for a brief moment, I like considered lying about it, just trying to say something different. And I was like, nah, this is the hospital. I should probably actually tell them the truth.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is what happened. Like, really? And I was like, yeah, this is the launch day for this thing. So you guys might be seeing some more of this stuff coming into the future. So so they went in and they had to like freeze the whole thing, and they go in with little tweezers and like grab the tendon to make sure it doesn't like, because the tendon is under tension.
Yeah.
Right. So they have to make sure it doesn't like snap back. And so they sewed that up and sealed up and sewed it up and wrapped the whole thing in bandages and stuff. And so it wasn't too bad. Probably the worst part about the whole thing, in terms of like pain, was when they freeze it, because like the doctor is gonna like put the freezing. He's like, all right, I'm gonna put some freezing in. It's gonna hurt. That's just how freezing works. The stuff that makes it so it doesn't hurt hurts going in. Sorry.
Weird.
So do it. And so I mean, it was one of those things where like afterwards, like I actually came back to James's place and played a little bit more Wii afterwards.
Well, because afterwards you were all like splinted up and you were fine.
Yeah, because it was like there, and we've got I think there's some pictures of me with my splint on.
Well, the 3 PS3's video.
Well, but like when I had like the full splint.
Oh, yeah.
Or the full cast. Or it wasn't even really a cast, but sort of a soft
Right.
covering. And so I was in that for about maybe 2 weeks, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then they removed that and just had a splint. And I was like, please, can we do this so that, like, because it was on my middle finger, and it was sort of on my middle finger and across my ring finger, my baby finger. I had like, there was it wasn't actually like, there wasn't any stitches there, but there was
Like some
cuts there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, please, can we do this where you splint up those 3 fingers, but leave me my index finger, my thumb, so I can still mouse with my right hand.
Yeah.
Because this is my right hand, right?
Yeah.
And so and they're like, okay, we could probably do this. So it was weird. Like I got pretty good with mousing with my left hand and like typing with one hand. That whole thing, figuring out how to do dishes with one hand.
Right.
When I didn't have a dishwasher and all this kind of stuff. And I couldn't get it wet, obviously. So yeah, that was not too. My right hand was mostly out of commission for about a month.
Yeah.
And that was not cool. At the time, I was making a living being a self-employed web developer.
Yeah.
That was before LoadingReadyRun was a living. And so I basically I couldn't really do much work during that month. So that was a huge pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
Now the best part about the story.
Yeah. So I did this thing, and a bunch of people were like, you should sue Nintendo.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not going to sue Nintendo for this. This is me being stupid.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether I could theoretically win or not, I don't know. I don't want to live in a world where that's a thing.
Yeah.
So I try not to do.
We don't want to be the people we make fun of.
That. Yeah, exactly. So
man hits hand into light fixture, sues Nintendo.
So but I did send an email to Nintendo.
Right.
Because I was like, look, a lot of people are going to be playing this thing in their basement, which even has a lower ceiling than the place I was in. You got a basement with like 8-foot ceilings and a light fixture, and that's gonna it might happen quite often. And I'm just saying that maybe you guys want to warn people about this,
because when the Wii starts up, originally there was the graphic of the little silhouette of the person whipping the Wiimote side to side and knocking over a lamp and a vase.
Yeah, and it was like, make sure that the space around you is empty, and we did that. And I was like, you say that, but maybe you should also mention that you should make sure the space above you, because some of your games require you to lift the Wiimote up. And I got a call from a Nintendo rep.
Very quickly.
Pretty quickly.
Probably because they were concerned that you'd sue them.
Yeah, like she
Yeah.
and she was she like talked to me and was sort of sort of said, "Are you okay?" and stuff. And I if I had tried to sue, what I talked about in that conversation would have completely killed my case, right? Because I was like, I'm pretty much fine.
Yeah. 14 stitches later, I can't quite flip people the bird as well as I could before.
And so, but I can't say definitively that I was responsible for it. But if you look at the difference between a manual for a Wii game that came out when the system launched and the manuals for games that came out after
Say 3 or 4 months later.
yeah. The little diagram of the person has little arrows on both sides of him saying, watch out for the things around you, and above him.
There's like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed from one with the lamp and the vase to another one with hitting like a ceiling fan or a light fixture or something.
Yeah. So
I think you're responsible for
I
that.
like to think that maybe I had responsible or was one of many people responsible for.
I know that you don't claim responsibility. I'm claiming that you are responsible.
I mean, considering all the kerfuffle about the stupid, like, throwing your Wiimote into the TV problem that they had, I figure this is much worse. So, anyway, so that's the end result of the whole thing is that I have a scar on my knuckle, and the sort of skin on my knuckle is a little weird, which isn't so bad. It itches sometimes.
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something actually I kind of like. Just minor stuff, right? Like I have, the thing on my thumb and on my knuckle, and I have a scar on one of my toes from something when I was like really, really young. Mm-hmm. And I like, in some ways I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like if there was if somebody made a clone of me, they wouldn't have that, right? Like it's a sign that I have
The
existed.
OG.
Yeah, that or that I have existed for my 31 years or whatever. That like that this body that I'm in is no longer pristine. It's taken. It's like your whatever your phone or whatever has some scratches and stuff when you're done with it after a while.
Yeah,
same deal, right? It's my the body has a few little nicks. But it's still working pretty good, so I like that. Obviously, that can go way too far to the point where you losing functionality.
Yeah.
To use the metaphor, when you get the scratches on the screen of the phone,
right?
That's less good than but scratches on the back, I don't care. So anyway, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Those were personal injuries.
Yeah.
So I like to think the other podcast.
The other podcast is going to be so much more spectacular.
James and Beej.
Well, we don't want to set it up. We don't know
James
exactly.
and Beej and Cam.
I've heard Alex's cringe stories.
Yeah, there's Alex as well.
Oh right, yeah.
And the thing is, Alex's cringe stories were all like, so I was playing with fireworks. And I was in a junkyard. And I'm just assuming that there is going to be a more dramatic outcome than everything was fine.
Surrounded by sharp rusted sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like
I hope so. Anyway,
you hope that Alex has had horrible injuries. Diving
I hope it's entertaining. But that's it for us for this. That seems like a great story to go out on. So thank you for listening. As always, if there's topics that you'd like us to talk about, let us know on Twitter at LoadingReadyRun and or in the comments below. And this podcast, in the form that it is, it being all weekly and everything, is brought to you by the generous supporters of our Patreon.
Yay!
It is patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Please do check that out, and if you are able to support all the stuff that we do, that would be delightful. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.